Hello and welcome to the Middle Earth in Mercia podcast. This is episode 16, A Burned Hand Teaches Best. As usual, I'm your host Sonny, and today I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by our usual co-host Ash. Say hello, Ash.
Hi everyone.
We've got quite a bit of content to catch up on the podcast. Now we've got Ash here. We've been building up a little bit of correspondence. We owe a few of you some responses. But the real bread and butter of the day is we have a tournament report for you. We have kicked off our 2024 season. We've been a bit of late bloomers this year. We didn't get going until March. But I'm glad to say that, we have started our 2024 season in earnest. With a GBHL 80 event hosted by friend of the podcast, Tom Smith. We're going to be telling you all about that. We're not going to be going into the ins and out details of our list. We will do that sort of in brief, because if you haven't caught it already, we have actually done something new for the podcast, where I assure you Ash does talk a bit more than he does here. And that is a tournament preview, and you can catch that over on YouTube or Spotify or your usual podcast provider. But if you do watch it on YouTube and Spotify, it should be video enabled, but we did have some issues. It's a new area we're trying out. But so we won't be going into details. We'll talk about the tournament rules in a bit though, and in brief what we did take and how we got on and all that kind of cool stuff. First, Ash, are you ready to go through some correspondence?
Yeah, let's do it. Hopefully nice correspondence.
No, it's mainly hate mail, but I have filtered that out. I am sorry if you've sent a message or if you've sent an email and it's taken us a little while to get back to you. I think all of these are from 2024, so it's not too much of a backlog. But we have got 3 or 4 messages just to respond to. So none of these were actually from email. So I'm often not sure whether to give people's full names or not. Email makes it easier because you can just reply how people sign off. But we'll stick with first names because I don't want to out anyone that don't want to be outed. So first up, we have Martin, and I think this was in response to our Chaos in Arda episode, where we were talking all about sort of the unwritten rules of the table and sort of table etiquette, fair play, and all that kind of cool stuff. He wrote us a little message. This from Martin. Just wanted to say how much I appreciated your non-partisan approach to the Chaos incident. Being down, and then he says where he's from, I don't get to play in the big GBHL events. I had heard that the top players were a little cliquey, and much of the other coverage has made me think that is the case. I did respond to Martin and give him a little reply just saying, don't be afraid to go to the events because, how rules are enforced is very much dependent on your TO. And if you've got a good TO, then I would say you've got absolutely nothing to worry about. It'll be a well-run event. And, if people are friends, they are friends, but it shouldn't get in the way of how rules are enforced. What about yourself, Ash? What do you think about that comment? Any response from Martin?
Yeah, I think it's a good comment to have as well because we try and be honest, and we want to be the honest guys here and just give our thoughts and feelings on what's happened and what's happening. I don't think anyone should be afraid of going to tournaments. Especially the 80s and 90s because they're a whole lot of fun. 100 is a bit more where the competitive play is, but they're still enjoyable. And like you say, if you've got a good TO, then the rules are quite strictly followed, and it's a good day out. Myself being new, I haven't had many people like pull me up on mistakes and things in a bad way, and I haven't really had any bad games. So I'd definitely encourage new people to go out there and try it. And it's just a way of continuing to play the hobby.
Yeah, I think as any sort of social group or club grows, we do have to take a moment to stop and check ourselves and make sure that we're still upholding the values that we have, because you can become a bit of snowblind, can't you, if you're just used to the viewpoint from your own community. But that certainly doesn't mean that there's any part of the community I think that is one to avoid. And yeah, I can't imagine you really having too many issues especially if you're attending an 80 or a 90. You agree with that, Ash?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for that comment, Martin. We do always appreciate when people join the conversation and get involved with our topics of the episode, so to speak. So the next one was also in reply to a different topic, but one that was discussed all the way back on episode 13. And this was in relation to my review of 3D printing. And I proposed the question, how have your attitudes to 3D printing changed? And Liam has got in touch and said, I wasn't a big fan with the extortionate prices and lack of variety with out of production models. He initially wasn't a big fan of 3D printing, I think is what he's saying. But with the extortionate prices and lack of variety with out of production models, it fills the void that Games Workshop have left. I also now quite like the variety and quality of the models available. What do you think, Ash? Because I know we're both relatively new to 3D printed models.
Yeah, obviously I've got a 3D printer. I haven't used it yet. I've had it for a year. Yeah, I think it does fill that void. And I think within reason, I think it's okay. But if you can get a Games Workshop model fairly cheap and fairly available, then I think stick to the Games Workshop models. But yeah, I think 3D printing is definitely a godsend to the game, because we're not getting those refreshes of models. So things like if you wanted an Arnor list, it's probably virtually impossible to build one without a 3D printer or without a lot of extensive modifications to maybe a Minas Tirith army. So yeah, I think they're good for the game, but I think like anything, it needs to be policed. Otherwise, it'll just become, oh well, I brought this model because I thought it was cooler than the Games Workshop model.
Yeah, which TOs will do. I mean, I sort of said on that episode that, you know, the cracking point for me was both availability and limitations of posing, that there wasn't enough poses for the half trolls, and in terms of availability for the Black Numenorians, I don't like the models. They're hard to get hold of, and when you can get hold of them, they're very expensive. So I wasn't willing to pay that amount for models I ultimately didn't like. And I sort of said that, you know, I don't really feel you can be halfway in the door, halfway out the door. I didn't really feel like it's solid ground to defend, to sort of be like, my use of 3D models is all right, but your use of it isn't. And I sort of kind of said that, yeah, I do think that when models are readily available, we do need to support the game. If people don't buy models from Games Workshop, the game, in terms of having a big corporation supporting it and everything that comes with that, will cease to be. But yeah, do you see what I'm saying? That my stance softened quite a bit.
Yeah. Especially because, limited poses, limited models, but like, if you're going to go and buy a selection of 3D printed Mordor orcs or Morannon orcs, then I think that's sort of where I draw the line.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be in favour of 3D printing at all if the entire line was available on Games Workshop and from the third-party retailers at recommended retail price or with the discount. But, I mean, you go onto the Games Workshop website now and it's like the apocalypse in terms of trying to get hold of stuff. I don't think there's an army out there that doesn't have something out of stock.
When I was looking, obviously, because it's probably a topic for later, that I'm looking at building a new army. There's a lot of stuff, like you say, that is out of stock, so it sort of limits you to building that new army. if you're new to especially if you're new to the game.
Yeah, definitely. It is a big blocker to entry, and I do think the ready availability of 3D printed miniatures. I did cover that there are a couple of issues, like they're maybe not appropriate for younger hobbyists, because depending on what resin has been used to print it, even in its solid form, it's not as inert. I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to make definitive, but it's not as inert or as harmless as, say, Games Workshop. I think it's polyurethane plastic. It's basically the same stuff your carrier bags are made out of. It's pretty harmless. If you eat it, I don't think any doctor's going to recommend that, but it should appear at the other end.
Yeah, hopefully. I think it's all down to whether it's been cured properly as well. It's harmless when it's cured, but when it's in its sort of liquid, non-cured state, that's when it becomes quite toxic.
Well, it can form finer powders, was one of the things I read. But yeah, I think we're perhaps getting onto a topic that neither of us quite has the knowledge to talk about. So, but yeah, there are a few considerations, and the more information you can get on what you're receiving, probably the better. But yeah, so thank you for that, Liam, and getting involved in that topic. On to our next comment. And this was a really recent one, actually. So we've tried something new on podcast providers and on YouTube. We put out a short 10-minute video talking about a specific topic, and it was just something we were trying out to see what the response was like, because maybe those sort of topics don't quite have a place in our main episodes. We want to keep this sort of hobby focused. We want to keep it community focused, so maybe we'll talk about those sort of things in these sort of mini short episodes. We'll certainly have to come up with a better name than how I've been referring to them to. But anyway, this was our first YouTube comment, so we just wanted to respond to this, and this was from a chap called Phil, and he said, "I've just discovered your podcast and I think it's great. For the next supplement, I think it will be about Arnor and Numenor, and a new hero could be Aenur, who fought at the Battle of Fornost with Glorfindel. It could lead to a good legendary legion, in my opinion." And I don't know about you, Ash, but I think perhaps Phil has a deeper knowledge of the First and Second Age than us, based on that. Are you aware of who Aenur is? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly.
No, I haven't heard of them.
I haven't, but yeah, Phil seems to think that the next supplement perhaps is more focused on Arnor and Numenor rather than Arnor and Angmar, which was the tip and the rumour that I'd heard. What do you think of either of those, Ash? I've spoken about it in that mini episode. Arnor and Numenor or Angmar, any of those get you particularly excited about a new supplement?
I think Arnor would. Obviously, they're probably going to have an enemy force in the supplement, so I would probably sway more towards it being Angmar. I'd like to see some new Numenorian models as well.
It could be Arnor, Numenor, and Angmar. They've done more than one faction per side before, haven't they?
Yeah, it could be like an alliance. Okay. Yeah.
I
maybe see that.
I think it would be particularly interesting if they touched upon Arnor, Numenor, and the Last Alliance. Maybe. I mean, one of the big rumours going around that you and I heard the other day was that there will be a new Elendil model, and there will be a new, I've forgotten his name, Gilgalad. There'll be a new Gilgalad model. So is that tied in with the supplement, or is it going to be, maybe it'd just be like Elrond, where they just brought out a model? I don't know. What do you think about the prospect of those, Ash?
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool, like an update to the Last Alliance. It's sort of, I guess it's sort of in a way tying it to the Amazon series that you hate with a passion.
I don't know what you're talking about, mate. I don't recall there ever having been an Amazon series.
But yeah, I think it sort of ties it in with that without it being linked to that. So maybe that could be a possibility. I guess we'll see when they reveal more than just a horse with stars on its face.
I do think, although I don't know who Airnur is, I have to give it some reading, and I'm sure there's a wiki page or something. I think it could be pretty cool, like you said, a legendary legion, perhaps that's more centered around Glorfindel. He doesn't really find his way into that many lists, and he is a very cool background. It's Slayer of a Balrog, like one of the most significant badasses in the whole of Middle Earth. It would be good to see more of that model on the table. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be good to see a change in the guard, if you like, of the models people take.
Yeah. Okay, Phil. Well, thank you for your comment and your kind words. We do appreciate it. And then finally, I tell a lie. We do have one email, and this is from regular listener of the podcast, Guy. And he wrote to us and just said, just wanted to say that he's still loving the pod. Really enjoyed episode 15. He's been looking forward to them. And he especially, this was the one I did with James Patterson, where we were talking about hosting tournaments. He said, as he would like to host a tournament in future, he found it especially interesting. And he needs to attend more tournaments and just get his core knowledge up. He says, I've tried to listen to other MESBG podcasts, and although I enjoy them, I just don't find myself going back to them. One of the others I do like is Battle Camper on YouTube. Which Battle Camper, I don't know if you've seen that. That's where the chappie, he's got a camper van thing, and he goes to different places and paints models and attends GBHL events. So if that sounds interesting to you, check that out on YouTube. What I like about yours is it's raw and it's real, and it feels like I'm listening to a mate chatting away about the hobby that they enjoy. Keep up the great work, and looking forward to the next one. Any response from you there, Ash?
Yeah, it's good to hear that we're getting some good feedback on what we're doing.
Yeah, it's always nice to have some kind words, and I do. Especially appreciate, Guy, that I think you get the vibe of the channel. Me and Ash are never going to be competing to win the GBHL title, but we are, regular guys that are trying to make the most out of the weekends we do get away from normal life, aren't we, Ash?
Yeah, and just bring those normal guys into the tournament scene as well.
Yeah, I think if you're looking to attend 1 to maybe 12 tournaments a year, I'd like to think that we're the scene you're looking for, because that's kind of where we inhabit. But yeah, Guy also, I should say, was very generous and again repledged as a supporter of the channel, and dropped a donation in our Buy Me a Coffee jar. So Guy, we do really appreciate that. It's always a enormous gesture when somebody shows that they've been enjoying our content to that extent, isn't it, Ash?
Yeah, definitely. And it just gives us motivation to keep bringing out more content and helping people, I guess. I don't know.
Helping people. I don't think we're a charity, mate. We offer some entertainment.
I think so.
And hopefully a small insight, or at least get the thoughts moving. So maybe you can make a slightly better list, or try out a different scenario or something. But as always, our content will always be free, and that is entirely optional. But Buy Me a Coffee is there if you like it. What we would ask, if you are enjoying the podcast, is what helps us enormously and is completely free to yourselves, is if you do have a moment to make sure that you are subscribed, or you're following on your subscriber of choice, or if you're on YouTube, you give the video a like, or take a moment for a review. We would really appreciate that if you're enjoying the content.
And share it with your friends.
Yeah, that's always a good one as well. So I think we've covered everything there. Thank you for having some patience with our little promotion. But if, like your fellow listeners, you would like to get involved in the conversation with us, because that's what we always aim for it to be, please do get in contact about any of the topics we discuss. The best way is to email us at middleearthinmercia@gmail.com. Or you can message us on Facebook or Instagram or any of the... I think there's a message... Yeah, there's always a message reply on Spotify. Unfortunately, we don't have that feature on other providers. But yeah, please do get in contact. We'd love to hear from more of you and hear what you're getting up to, especially your hobby journeys. Like, have you attended your first tournament of the year? Maybe you're considering it. We'd love to hear from you. So... moving on, what is the next topic I have at hand? Yes, that was it. I wanted to talk about our hobby progress a bit, Ash, and I've been talking for a little bit, so why don't you've not been on the pod for a little bit. Do you want to fill the listeners in on what you've been preparing to do or getting ready for?
Yeah, so it's probably going to be brief because I'm still figuring out what the next army choice is going to be. So after the tournament we went to, I think I'm still pushing to change the list. So I do have a couple of Morannons kicking about, so I thought I'd just give them a paint and try out some colour schemes on them, and they're looking quite good. Looking to hopefully paint my Witch King and just get my models painted, whilst trying to pick the army list. And then also we've got some stuff coming up together, so just get those models ordered for that army and get those painted.
Yeah, we'll reveal towards the back end of the episode what our next tournament together is going to be, our May tournament, and what our new project's going to be. We'll reveal that at the end of the episode. But yeah, anything else, Ash? Anything else?
Just trying to, I guess, find community and play more games. I know we spoke about a few other things that we're going to try and do, set up a community page and things like that to start having a few more games within our area. I'll let you fill people in on what you did the other day. But yeah, just try and find a few more games and play test a few more armies so that we get a broader knowledge of the armies that are out there.
So yeah, my hobby progress is a little bit more extensive than Ash, because for this tournament I actually took a new army. So I stuck with Mordor and Harad. We're going to what's in there later, mainly so that I could reuse some of my Harad, because I'm a bit of a lazy painter. But yeah, I think I painted something like, I got in a bit of a rhythm, and I think I painted 5 heroes, including the new, well, not new, it's been out for a while, but the plastic Witch King of Angmar set, the mounted and dismounted. I was really happy with how that came out. I used some dry brushing techniques, entirely sort of learned from the Artis Opus YouTube page. I really recommend picking up some of those brushes and following those reviews. It has made my painting look a lot better than my actual standard is, I think. But yeah, you can check out photos of them on our Facebook and Instagram. I was really happy with how it came out. I also painted Grishnak. I painted Guritz as well. That's another lovely model, like really high definition. And I used some dry brushing again on that to do the armor plates on the base before building it up. But I was really happy with how that came out. I did Grishnak, who is a model I was really happy to get done, because I originally got him from the Battle Games in Middle-earth magazine when I was a kid. So that is a model my mum bought me, which I think is maybe almost, I'd have to check the dates, but maybe that's been sitting around for 20 years waiting for me to paint it. So that was quite cool to get done. And then I have done some more 3D printed miniatures. I did 9 Black Numenorians, and then 9 Morannons, and then I just had to do some orc bowmen, which I was using as trackers. But all in, I think I got something in the region of about 20 models painted in March, which I was really happy with. What about Ash? Do you reckon you could match 20 models in a month? I know we rib you for being a slow painter.
Yeah, I think so. I painted a whole army in 2 weeks.
I'm still doubting that actually happened.
Yeah, no, I did. I'm just wondering what it cost you to spend that much hobby time. Do you have to pay for a nice fancy meal or a holiday?
Well, I mean, I didn't spread it out as much as I would have wanted to. I did it over about 3 weeks, and I did a lot of the prep in February, which takes out a big chunk of it. But yeah, I think if I could have spread it out over about 5 weeks, maybe my home life wouldn't have even noticed. But yeah, it was commented upon how much painting I was doing. So I've taken a little bit of a break since. But yeah, that's the hobby update. Really, I don't think I want to go in deeper than that. But I will at some point. I'll take some photos of all the additional models I've painted. I know some people saw the green stuff work I did on my black Numenorians. I was really happy with how that came out. I did a lot of fur work on them, which again is another technique that makes me look good. I am not that good at sculpting green stuff. If you've not done any sculpting, I do really recommend starting on like capes, half capes, and fur. Like natural materials are a lot easier to make look good and a lot more forgiving than doing faces and weapons and things like that. What about yourself, Ash? Have you done any green stuff work more than just gap filling?
No, I haven't actually. It's something I probably should give a go.
Yeah, I mean the thing that really unlocked for me was, and people that are like good at it probably think this is absolutely stupid. I didn't know, but I honestly didn't know until about 6 months ago that you're meant to put like Vaseline on your tools to stop them sticking to it. And you do have to make sure that it doesn't get caked in it because it can delay it drying and stuff. But that's a real game changer. Probably just watch some videos on it, and I'm sure they say that in the first 60 seconds, but I was not aware.
Good old YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, it's great for learning most things, really, isn't it? Especially the hobby. But yeah, that's a bit of a hobby update. We get on to what is our next hobby project that me and Ash are working on collaboratively together. But yeah, in short, I was really happy with what I got done in March. Like, adding 20 models, fully painted, fully based, fully varnished, ready for gaming. It's always nice to see the gaming cabinet expand by that much. So let's move on to the tournament. So as I said earlier, we have got our tournament preview out there. So if you want to check out in full all the details, all the lists that were coming, go and check that out if you haven't already. We were joined by the TO Tom Smith to give some extra detail, and also another friend of the podcast, James Patterson, who was a fellow player at this event. So, like I said, it was a GBHL 80 event, and this was a escalation event, which I think Tom is a bit of a fan of. So, Ash, do you want to run through what the points were, and then maybe in brief tell us what you were taking?
Yeah, so it was escalation, 350 for the first 2 rounds, and then escalating up to 550 the rounds after that. And then also I took Riders of Theoden, as everyone knows, is my sort of fetish list. Well, probably my only list, should I say?
I think you're a fan of punishment. Is the way we'd phrase it.
I don't like an easy ride. I like to have a painful moment. But yeah, Riders of Theoden, obviously with Theoden, Dernhelm and a captain for my 350 with a couple of Royal Guard. And then for my 550, I added in Aomer, because who wouldn't take Aomer? With a couple more Royal Guard. We were trying something new and having a hero heavy list. And I won't spoil it for the listeners, but It was an interesting experience.
We'll get on to that. So yeah, so like Ash said, it was 350 for the first 2 games. So I took pure Mordor for that because you could sort of add in a faction. You just couldn't be a Legendary Legion and then change to not Legendary Legion, or you couldn't take Mordor and then not take Mordor at all in the second half. So at 350, I went for a horde list. I had I think it was 26 models or something like that, and I had 3 named orcs. So I had Guritz, I had Shagrat, and I had Grishnak, and everyone but Guritz took a shield as well to boost their defense. So yeah, I had 2 strikers and 1 that was able to march, 9 points of might. I took some Black Numenorians, I took some Morannons, I took 5 orc trackers, and then I took some normal orcs to sort of fill out the extra points and really maximise the amount I could take. So I was really happy with that list. And then at 5, it was 550, wasn't it? I took classic Mordor scum list that's been going around the meta of a decently powered Witch King on horse with the crown, and Suladan on the armoured horse in the other corner. And yeah, I have somehow never played with a Ring Wraith ever. So I know this was an 80 and this was a bit of a strong list to take, but I wanted to learn how to play the list. And also, people do go to these events with the intent to do well, and I wanted to try it and do well, to be honest. Not that I've played with weak lists before, but, if you're going to try...
You've taken a weak list, have you? You're always close to a bit of a meta filth list.
I don't think I ever... I mean, this is probably the closest I've ever come to just chasing pure meta, but to be fair to me, I decided I was going to do the Witch King last year. It was sort of like last year when camels for a brief moment came into vogue, and it was like I bought these in October, and I sort of started planning this about in October for what I wanted to do. So yeah, I'm not going to deny that it's a strong combo. So, if you want to call it meta, then by all means do, because it certainly is a strong list. But yeah, 9 Black Numenorians, 9 Morannons with axe and spear, and then on the other side I had Suladan and a couple of Serpent Riders. But my ace in the hole, which many people wouldn't have expected, which was a tip, you can find out all about that tip and the methodology and the thoughts behind it in our tournament preview, was I brought an additional caster, a budget Wraith, with some friends, so that I could get double caster at 550. And I think that, I won't spoil it, but I think that was actually the real strong thing in this list, more so than even Witch King and Suladan. May have been matchup dependent, but once we've heard my matchups, you, the viewer, can be a decider of that. But yeah, what did you think of my list? I thought it was pretty strong, Ash.
Yeah, obviously I played it a few times in the testing, and it's a pretty strong list. Surprised though that you were the only Witch King player in the whole tournament.
That was astounding. Yeah.
Normally it shows up a few more times than that, but yeah, I think it is a really strong list, especially at that points level, and the 2 lists were quite distinctly different as well. Your 350 list was really strong at 350, but I think your 550 list was even stronger.
Yeah. I mean, both were we won't get into it too much because we did discuss it a lot. But yeah, the 350 was sort of more playing the style I'm used to. I was very cautious with my 550 list just because I was really aware of my inexperience using Magic. And I did make a few mistakes, and I'm glad I played it at an 80 so I could learn from those mistakes there. And, maybe at my next outing, having learned those lessons is going to do me some real favours. But let's move on to the tournament. The only other thing I think I need to make viewers aware is that this tournament was actually using minor major victories and minor major losses, which I actually really like. It's something that I don't think I've attended a tournament where they use that since Ardacon. And particularly when you've only got 4 games, I think it does help divide people up more evenly. You haven't got as many people on the same tournaments points. And I do think it gives people an incentive of maybe, I know I've lost this game, but even more so than just victory points scored or scored against, I need to keep fighting. What did you think about that? I don't think it played too much of a factor for you, Ash, but the concept, what do you think of the concept of that?
Yeah, I think the concept's great. Like you say, it didn't really play into much of a factor to me as such, probably because I forgot that it would have an impact like that as well. So that's the learning experience, is remember to keep your games a bit tighter. If you're losing, try not to give away too many points. And I think it's worth noting that the tiebreakers were margin of victory, victory points allowed, and strength of schedule, which I think is a great combination with that major minor victory. I think that really spreads the field up nice. I know we've gone to tournaments in the past where that tiebreaker has been different and the field is a lot closer, and you've sort of felt a bit sour against where you've ended up because you actually played people classed as easier, but actually your victory points were a lot higher, so you should have been higher up the leaderboard than you were. So I think that combination is really good. And then obviously the dice down aspect of it, that didn't come into play with me. Most of my games were finished before then, but that I really like the dice down aspect that Tom always does at his tournaments.
I think it's something tournament organisers need to take note of everywhere. Really, is be clear on what your game end policy is. But I think we did talk about that again in the preview. So let's get on to game 1. So they did the draw the night before, or the day before, I think it was, and announced what the first game. No, I don't think they did announce what the first game is, but yeah.
No, yeah, they did. They said the first game and your opponent the night before.
So the first game was Retrieval, which is one that, like, if people are choosing, if it's a predetermined scenario pack, isn't one that often gets chosen. I think it tends to be one that only comes up when it's a random draw like this was. And this focuses on, there is a relic basically in each person's deployment zone. The table is divided in 2 horizontally, and you have to try and get that relic. And the points scale depending on whether you have just moved the relic, whether you are in possession of the relic, all the way up to, if you get it off your own board edge, you get 7 victory points. There is also 1 victory point available for causing 1 or more wound on the enemy leader, 2 for killing them, 1 victory point for breaking the enemy force, and 3 victory points for breaking them and remaining unbroken. And yeah, this is a real classic objective game in that if you achieve the major objective, it doesn't matter what the enemy force has done to your army. As long as you've not been tabled, you will still win by 1 victory point. So yeah, and I'll just launch straight into my game, Ash, because it's pretty short really. Mine was against Iron Heels and Army. Iron Heels. It was pure Iron Heels, and I had the Iron Heels chariot with like 4 guys on it, and I had Dane. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I've been very vocal about how I feel about these sort of like almost meme models, and I do think that the Iron Heels chariot is a bit of a meme model.
Yeah, I think I remember having to sort of talk you off the edge of the cliff the night before.
Well, it's just because we only get to go to so many of these tournaments, and I want to have a strategic game against a strong army that uses the full rule set of the game, and I do feel somewhat deprived of that. Everybody is entitled to take their own lists, but I do think you need to be aware that what list you have, like you wouldn't want to take Black Riders, but Anyway, it is what it is. I was taking a competitive list. Maybe some people weren't happy about my list, but I can only say how I truly felt, and I wasn't over the moon about playing against it. As it turned out, I was playing against a chap called... and I know some people's names were muddled up, so I am sorry if this isn't actually the name of the person I was playing against, but I was playing against, it says on Longshanks, a chap called Jack Buckler, and he was, I was exceptionally lucky at this tournament. Everybody, and so I'm going to say this over and over again, everybody I played was really, really nice, and whether his name was Jack or not, I'm not sure, but he was a super pleasant dude, and very quickly, any worries about not having an enjoyable game did dissipate. I didn't get, that super tactical, lines launching into each other, watching out for the heroic combats and things that you normally get, so it was very different, but it was still an enjoyable way to start off the tournament. And how it quickly played out, I kept Gallbag back, who was my leader, and his warband. I sat on our prize, and then in sort of a ruin that was halfway up the map, I sort of hid Guritz and I hid Grishnak in there. And sort of my plan was that when the chariot approached, because it's got like a bolt thrower and things on it, I knew I couldn't just allow him to constantly shoot at me. My sort of plan was, okay, this thing is probably going to charge me, but I have two heroes that have got 3 might and one fate. It only does 3 strikes, so what I need to do is I need to receive the charge on one of those heroes. My odds with 2 wounds, 1 fate and 3 might are exceptionally high that he's going to be unable to do 3 full wounds on me. Yeah, so in short, I knew with two wounds, 1 fate, 3 might, and him only doing 3 strikes on me with the charge, it was probably unlikely that he was going to be able to just kill that model in one. And then with the other might model, I would hopefully be able to jump on it and do some serious damage to it. So that was kind of my plan. But what I did not... So he sort of approached me and he was keeping Dane with it. And what I did was I had one Warg Rider, which I've forgotten to mention, and I sent him all the way around the left-hand side of the board. So that's sort of left him with the decision of, do I just let Sonny and his Warg Rider get my item, or do I stay with my chariot and it has some might protection? Because it didn't have a captain or anything on it, so I had no might protection. So, yeah, he was sort of humming and ahhing, and he had to send Dane away for a bit, else I was going to very... early on get that relic. He did send him back in the end because it was just going to be tears for the chariot if he didn't get some might support. But yeah, to cut a long story short, I had some of the most outrageous luck ever in terms of, I think my orc trackers, I only had 5 of them. I did 3 wounds on the chariot, and that was requiring, I think it was defense 8, strength 2 hits on it, so I was needing like 6s then 5s, and I managed to do that 3 times, so that was exceptional luck. I do have to give credit to that, but I think I would have still won the game because he really did just have this choice of I either let you get the item, and once you've got the item, you can pass it to your warg. If because the warg, when I dismounted, he passed his courage test, and then it's just game over. I get the 7 points, that created a real dilemma for him. As it turned out, I did manage to destroy the chariot. When the chariot was sort of destroyed, I had just got the warg off with the item, and he kind of had to call it there because I knew he would just hide with Dane, stop me doing damage to him, stop breaking, and we didn't want to do that for 20 minutes. And with my Warg Rider having gone off, Dane could move 8 inches, so if he wanted to, there was no way I was going to catch him or be able to shoot him. So the game ended 7-0, and yeah, I think I played it. I wouldn't have played it any different, and I think even without the outrageous luck on the shots, I probably would have wound up winning 7-something. But whether he would have broken me because he could have continued coming after me, maybe he could have. Maybe the points on the other side would have been different, but that resulted in a major victory for me. So I got maximum victory points on that, and that was all she wrote for game one. So what about yourself, Ash? What were you facing? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I played a guy called Hayden, who had a Mordor list, and I'd played so many Mordor lists by now. I was just like, okay, another Mordor list. I knew what was sort of coming. He had Goroth and Grishnak with a splattering of Morannons and Orc Warriors. So yeah, and obviously Retrieval again. I hadn't played Retrieval before, so this was the first time. I made a really good move where I sort of split my force, and I set my captain one way, sent Dernhelm and Theoden another way. So managed to like spread his force around the object, the relic, and then when the time was right, I sort of charged in on one flank, but not the other flank, and left my captain just sitting within throwing spear range, but not within charge range of his models. So, and pulled off a few heroic combats, but one heroic combat that I'm quite pleased with thinking up this tactic was I used a heroic combat to basically put Dernhelm behind his flank and then heroic combat off of his rear flank and onto the relic and pick the relic up with Dernhelm. Which then in the next turn I then moved Dernhelm within range of my captain. So the next turn I could call a march with my captain and basically march Dernhelm to the other end of the board and basically take her off the board and get the 7 points.
Yeah.
In doing so though, I made the decision to sort of sacrifice Theoden, and use Theoden to sort of hold up his forces and stop him from coming down to get his relic. But in hindsight, I probably should have switched the captain and Theoden around. Whether he would have been as aggressive in trying to get the captain over Theoden, it might have spoiled my plan a little bit in that tactic. He might have moved all his forces to the other side and sort of blocked me off getting off the board. So maybe that worked in my favour. The problem is then obviously he managed to kill Theoden with Goroth, which then gave him some extra victory points. And a rookie mistake from myself was I then went back to try and protect my relic, which meant he killed everyone, so he got extra victory points for killing everyone apart from obviously Dernhelm, who went off the board. So he got those points for breaking, and then he managed to pick his relic up because I mistakenly thought that he didn't get as many points for picking the relic up, but you do. You get the 3 points.
Yeah, he retained it as well, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, so that meant it was an 8-8 victory, whereas really, if I'd just taken my remaining riders and just rode round the board, I don't think he would have picked the relic up and then got off his board edge. So it probably would have spared me the win there. But yeah, that's obviously a learning experience. Played Retrieval for the first time, learned that harsh lesson, but still got the draw from it. So it wasn't too bad. And I don't believe Hayden plays for Team GB, so that was like another thing ticked off the list to aim for, not have to play someone like that the first round. But yeah, really good guy and really enjoyable game. I think learning my list more is you need the numbers, especially at the 350 points. I think you need those numbers. He had 23 more warriors, and I think I had maybe 9. So that it's very easy to break at that numbers, especially against equal fight skill models like Black Numenorians. It sort of takes away that advantage of having the Royal Guard on the charge.
On the charge, though, you'll fight 5.
Yeah,
so it's not equal fight skill.
Yeah, but it's getting those charges off with, I think,
it
I
is
had 6 Royal Guard, so
it is a knife-edge list. You do need to be charging. It has to come off for you. But yeah, okay. I know you were really disappointed with that result, and I think early on in sort of, because this is only like tournament 5 or 6 for you, isn't it?
yeah, I think 5, maybe, yeah, 5 or 6, yeah.
So you're still pretty new to it, even though time wise you've been playing for a while, and tournaments do teach the best. And I do remember losing, not just drawing, but losing games in the exact same thing because I just didn't quite read the rules as detailed enough. And trust me, it's something you won't repeat. And for those listeners out there that this has recently happened to you, or if you're new and it maybe happens to you in future, you will learn from it, and it'll be a bitter taste you hopefully only taste once.
Yeah, and I think having the rule book, the match play rule book, not on your phone, having it in the physical copy or having the rules in a physical copy, I think is beneficial because you've got it there to reference throughout the game, and you don't feel rude being on your phone. Then, if you've got a piece of paper in front of you with the rules, or you've got the rule book, you can just say, okay, just quick flick, okay, that's the rule. Whereas it's on your phone, you sort of feel a bit rude by just standing there on your phone during a game.
All right, then. We want to try and keep the tournament review brief, so we must move on to round 2. And round 2, again, this was still staying at 350. This was Divide and Conquer. This was the one where you start in opposing corners. So if you've got more than one warband, your force will be split because you have to alternate between the two. And there are 3 objectives in the centre, and you get additional points for capturing the centre objective. You get lesser amounts of points for the left and right objective. You get 1 victory point for wounding the enemy leader, 2 for killing them, and 1 victory point if the enemy force is broken at the end of the game. And so this one, as regular tournament goers will be aware, it's a fairly common scenario, and the name of the game is all about get to that centre objective first. So you do often see marches being deployed, maybe even multiple marches being deployed in this. So I was lucky enough to play a truly delightful fellow by the name of Andrew Robinson, who I was lucky, privileged enough to be playing him at his first Middle-earth tournament. I felt a bit bad for him because I was very much on form. I was very much playing a good force, and he had just come. I could tell he was on a bit of a high from his first win, and rightly so, because that first win at a tournament is it is fun. It's a bit of a high. It's validation that you are not completely clueless. At least that's the way I found it. And I'm not going to lie, our game was pretty one-sided. Andrew, he did not play the game awfully, and certainly not awfully for somebody that was playing their first tournament, but just sort of the simple mistakes, like not spending the might to march to the centre objective, little mistakes like that, which you're just going to learn from experience. And I was fairly on it on this day, and I'm not going to lie, I took advantage of every single one because I wanted that major victory. We were able to have a really civil game, and I think Andrew was able to enjoy it as much as you can enjoy heavy defeat. I certainly enjoyed playing him. He was very sporting. I think I actually did give him my best sporting vote because he took it all in good grace. I tried to confer a few tips and things. I have just remembered, I've forgotten to say what arm he was taking. Basically, it was Gil-galad and a ton, as many as you can take, of elves, of high elves with sword and shield, which unfortunately is not a very optimum list. I did give Andrew some advice. Literally, I think even 5 spears could have made a huge difference to this game. A handful of bows could have made a huge difference to this game. But he didn't have the tools available to him, and I was able to use my superior numbers, the fact I could fight in ranks. A fight 5 elf is pretty dangerous. But I would much prefer to have to be on my side, where in some scenarios he was having to fight 2 guys at the front, maybe even a captain, and they're supported, just rolling the weight of dice, and there's only so much Gil-galad could do. He put up a valiant fight, but eventually he fell. This wound up being a total victory. Andrew did get his moment in the sun in that he cannily immediately took note that Gorbag was on my front rank. Maybe that was a bit of carelessness from me, and I was very lucky to be able to retreat him after he wounded him and took a fate off. So he was able to secure a victory point for that, but everything else was in my hands, really, and it wound up being a 12-1 victory. Thanks, Andrew. I hope to meet you at a tournament in future, and I'm sure if you continue playing, the day will come where you turn the tables on me. I think when you come with a list that's crafted with the experience you've learnt from this tournament, as well as the scenario experience, you're going to find so rapidly your experience grows. I said to you several times, but I'm sorry that you wound up in that matchup. But thank you for being a truly sporting player. And this is the it was nice and it was bad, because I felt bad for Andrew, if you get what I mean, Ash. But also it was really nice to here's a genuinely decent bloke with a good spirit in the game joining the community.
Yeah, it's good to see new people come, and to get you win at your first tournament in your first game is, I don't know what that feels like, because it took me a while to do that. I seem to get my wins all in one go, and I don't think they've come back. It's always good to see new people coming in, and obviously I think Board In Brum is one of the best places to have your first tournament. I really enjoy playing there. I feel sorry for him having to play you on his second game, but yeah, I think it's just a shame he met you when you were in good form. But yeah, sometimes I think the most sporting votes should go to the people who were taking that beating and taking it well and still enjoying the game and still being fully involved, because sometimes when you're losing, it is hard, and I think if someone takes it well, then it's always more enjoyable for both sides.
I rarely give my best sporting vote to someone that's beat me, not because I'm a sore loser, but because it is a heck of a lot. Let's face it, we're all humans. It's a lot easier to be sporting when you've won the game. People that are able to take it in good spirits and good graces when you've maybe especially had a bad loss, that's true sportsmanship in my book. But yeah, sorry, just going back, I forgot to mention it was at Board In Brum in Walsall. Highly recommend the location. We've attended it before for various tournaments, and it's under new management. I know they've got game nights there and all sorts. Definitely check it out. We will be frequenting it quite a lot in future, because I know we've got some friends and stuff that are looking to be TOs and hosting it there. So with that said, Ash, do you want to give us a quick rundown of your game 2, who you were facing, what you were playing, and how the game played out?
Yeah, so my game 2 was against a guy called Daniel, who had Fellbeans of Mirkwood, so a list I've not played before. So it was interesting to see how that was going to play out. He basically had Rajgush with a Bat Swarm, and then the Spider Queen with some Fell Wargs, and then a couple of Orc Warriors and Orc Trackers. So I think 18 models, so he had double the models than me, so it was always going to be a bit difficult in a game like Divide and Conquer not having those numbers. So it played into my hands that the forces had to be split up. So my aim was to take out Razgush and his warband as quickly as I could before the Spider Queen could get across. But I got tied up in combats with them, and it took a bit longer than I'd hoped to try and get that warband sort of dissembled. The Spider Queen managed to come across and do her trickery with her little spiders, tying up sort of the forces that I had to try and get round the back of his Rajkush warband. The little spiders tied them up, but managed to kill them off quite easily, and he spent all his will, but obviously I've got no magic, so it doesn't really matter that much. The Spider Queen did an awful thing where they managed to hurl Dernhelm through 2 combats into Theoden, basically taking Theoden off his horse, Dernhelm off her horse, and another combat off the horse. So that just renders my army sort of a bit null and void when that happens.
Dreadful.
He managed to kill Dernhelm and Merry with that hurl, and then heroic combat into Theoden, and then killing Theoden. So after that, the game was sort of done, and it was a very heavy defeat. I think it was 12-2. I managed to kill Rajgush, who was his leader, and get those 2 points. But yeah, 12-2 was pretty hard to take after obviously making that loss, that draw in the first game and making those silly mistakes. It was harsh to then go and get thrashed 12-2, and yeah, it wasn't setting me up for a good afternoon. But obviously, you know what I'm like. I'm there to enjoy it. Don't let it really get to me. But it was interesting playing a new list and learning those like little secret things that you wouldn't realise playing your friends, because you'd maybe have a bit more of an open discussion of, oh, well, the Spider Queen can do this, this, and this.
Yeah, I mean, regular listeners will be aware. The first time I played the Spider Queen, maybe they're not. I don't think it's done in malice, but especially with a model like that that's got so many rules and stuff, I think it's easy for the person that's playing it to overlook maybe something you weren't aware of, and not fully explain it. And in certain situations, it does have complicated interactions. So
yeah, but the guy was a great guy, and it was still a great game, and I can't take anything away from his win. He was a great guy, and it was an enjoyable game, and there was a few good combats. It was just taking out both my key heroes in one swoop is always a bit of a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, it unfortunately sounds like a good move by your opponent, but
yeah, I think he's did it to Tom, Tom Smith. I think he hurled his king on chariot into another chariot, or a chariot into his king on chariot. So the guy is obviously really well skilled in his list, which is always good to play a player who knows his list like that.
Yeah. And I'm sure afterwards you went and had a quick look at the Spider Queen rules as well.
I haven't yet, no.
Oh, well, you got to double down on that learning, Ash, so that next time you're better prepared.
More time reading the rules, I think.
Well, I definitely do. When something like that happens and I've been caught out, I go and make sure that I know the rules for next time. But anyway, let's move on. So we had lunch. I don't think he's planning on doing it again, because Tom told me it was a bit of a hassle. But he had arranged for burritos. We obviously had to pay, but everybody had a hot burrito that wanted one delivered. So that was really nice for lunch. Gave us quite a nice amount of time to lounge about, and for Ash to lament how the morning had gone, and for me to celebrate 2 major wins. So moving on to the afternoon, the scenario that we had was Breakthrough. Again, a fairly common scenario at a lot of competitive events. This is where you have your traditional deployment of 2 table halves, and you've got your objectives in a diamond shape. 1 home objective for each of you, and then 2 on the line. And you get 1 victory point if there are more enemy models within 3 inches of an objective in your own deployment zone. For the one on the centre, you get 1 if there's more friendly, 2 if it's just you. For the opposing home objective, you get 2 victory points if there's more friendly models, and you get 4 if there's no one else there. You get 1 victory point for causing a wound on the enemy leader, 2 if you kill them. 1 victory point for breaking the enemy force. So this one very much is all about the objectives, and especially getting to your opponent's one. So I was facing the mighty Joe Gonzalez, Gibraltar's finest, who is someone that I attended Ardicon with, so me and Joe know each other. I'm always quite happy when I get to play somebody at one of these events that I know, but I don't get to regularly play. That's always fun. So I was excited against a game against Joe. Less excited when I saw what he had brought, because I think Joe had a similar morning as myself, and he was bringing Azog's Hunters. I can't give you the full details of the list, but it was basically the 3 named Hunter Orcs, all on wargs, I think they were, and then tons and tons of Hunter Orcs, loads of bows. I think he had something like 18 bows, and he had a banner. Now, I have both my casters at this point, and I've got my rather formidable line of Black Numenorians, supported by Suladan and Moranans, but he grossly outnumbered me, especially in shooting. So I could tell as soon as we'd done deployment, Joe sort of sat rather far back, that he was intending to shoot me, and I knew I couldn't really stay back and just allow him to shoot me. He would just dominate the game. He would eventually get confident. He would move upfield, and there's so many of them that I wouldn't be able to, as the scenario is called, break through, so to speak. One chink in his armour is he did put 1 force to the side. So what I did right at the beginning of the game was I continued to sort of lure this by misplacing my second cast and my budget Wraith, and the moment the game started I quickly marched him back to my main force. So my plan was engage the main force as quickly as possible, kill as many of them as possible. I knew there was more than enough there that if I killed 3/4 of what was in front of me, I would break them, and then they would start to flee. And that was my game plan, and I was going to use my casters to really limit them, his heroes, from really doing much, because I figured if with a bit of luck, most turns I can immobilize 2 of the casters, and on the turns where he goes first, he's going to be worried about being over eager, because I can potentially nullify them and then try and mob them. We're skip head, lines come together, and that's pretty much how the game played out for a while. I was able to get into his main battle line early, and I was winning the battle, but I just wasn't doing as much damage as I wanted. And worst of all, Joe was just not taking the bait in terms of resisting my spells. I really needed the will to start to go down on his heroes and be null across the board so I can do what I want. One big victory I did have was that I forgot to mention is immediately before the battle lines met, I noticed he didn't have his banner in base contact with anything else. Like, I'm not talking this was a minor mistake. He was several inches away from everyone else. So I straight away black darted him, and that set things off well to take away that banner. Lines came together, and I think in hindsight, looking back at this, the mistake I made was he was being really cautious with his heroes. He wasn't spending will, and I should have straight from the off had Suladan boom into 2 people. Next turn, boom, into 2 people, and just kept doing that. I should have had Suladan killing 2 Hunter Orcs every single turn, and I didn't do it. And that is, in the preview, the guy said to me, I'm going to have to make him work. And I got him to work in the latter half of the game, but I just didn't make him work from the off. And during this time where I wasn't killing enough, he was bringing round his other force, and he moved towards my home objective and also sent some people into my flank. And on one of the terms where he got priority, he was able to get he had to use his leader, and he had to use all of his will, but he was able to create like a little gap and then send one of his heroes into my secondary caster. And try as I might, I tried to save him, and I don't think we quite recognised the significance of it, but he killed my budget wraith, and that really allowed him to sort of change things a bit. And I think at this point he had sort of killed about 8 of my models. We're about 70% of the way through the game, and at this point, he was really asking me, because although he had killed the second caster, he was sort of asking me for advice on what he could have done better. And I was saying to him, Joe, the game's not over yet, mate, because I think he thought, I'm just going to break and then this game is over. And he had one turn, and it's not like I was surrounded or anything like that. He just started to get some good dice rolls. The dice gods were with him, and in one turn he killed 8 of my models or something like that, so doubled his kill tally. And this just really set off a critical mass, not to stop me wearing my way through him, but it just essentially meant that I did not break him until the final turn of the game, and I couldn't kill them quickly enough. I couldn't break them, so he only wound up taking 1 round of courage tests, and it just wasn't enough, and it wound up being a 5-9 victory to Joe. Very well won by him. I make no complaints about those lucky dice rolls. I had exceptional dice rolls in that first game, and it was only Joe sticking at it and doggedly chasing me that he gave himself the opportunity to win. So definitely a hard one win. One other highlight was I did manage to black dart his leader. That's part of the reason, and kill him, because it was part of the breakthrough. So that earned me some victory points. But luckily for me, because I did try my best, I managed to make this just about a minor victory, which wound up giving me a tournament point. But no, an excellent game against Joe. Who I don't think it's too much to spoil it. He went on to win the tournament, so congratulations to Joe. I think you were playing really well on the game. You brought a really good list, and when you combine those two, you get a result. So that is my game 3. Over to you, Ash, to give us a rundown of yours.
Yep. So my game 3 was against James Vanilla Bear from the Bears. He was playing a Ministerialist with Denethor and who was the other guy? Hurin the Tall, and then Madril and some Rangers. The Rangers in the first round managed to kill 3 of my horses, so that was a bit brutal. Sort of. My list wasn't that big. Still, I think it was 3 people bigger than my 350 points. So losing 3 horses in the first turn sort of does cripple you a little bit when you are really reliant on having those horses to get those bonuses. And then I think the second turn he did the same. Took my captain and 2 Royal Guard off their horses. So that was hard. And then obviously Ministerial with their shield wall rule, it's quite hard to break when you're on foot. Obviously, winning the combats on a horse is good because you can break that shield wall. Managed to break it. Eventually realised, probably too late, that I needed to get Aemir through and try and get Aemir onto his objective, because then I could sort of tie up people on that objective and just churn through combats, because he didn't really have any heroes that could probably... that would be able to face off against Aemir. Mm-hmm. But I left it too late to get on that back objective. Managed to get on it, but he still had too many people on there to sort of give me enough victory points on that. Did a stupid thing where I had Theoden on my back objective because he managed to march back on his own. And instead of just letting him take a combat with 2 Rangers, I moved him onto the objective, but that then gave James the chance to put his guys onto my objective as well. So that sort of lost me the points there as well. Really, I was trying to protect Theoden, but really I should have just taken the combat, and just hope for the best. Again, I think maybe we had something going on and we need to replace these Middle-earth in Mercia dice, because my dice rolls in this game were just against me, and I just felt like I was just trying to grind it out, and I just was losing roll-offs, I was losing combat, priority, and it was just, it felt like I was just stuck in mud trying to get through the shield wall of the Minister of guys.
Once the majority of you are off horse, you are going to have a hard time, especially if they're
yeah. Well, that's half my army were off the horses, so that was difficult. And obviously, again, breakpoint isn't very high, so as soon as you're broken, it's sort of like, okay. And I think no, it was the next game where this happened. So yeah, basically just it ended up being another 8-0 loss. So another major loss. So yeah, it's tough to take making that stupid mistake, and I think the list was very knife edge, but I think the Riders of Theoden sweet spot is 600 and above. I might look at some changes, and I think throwing spears probably controversial. I'm sure people can put in the comments. I don't think they're worth the money. I think I'd rather take an extra person, because I've just not had any luck with the throwing spears.
I do think, for the sake of your own sanity, you probably do need another force, just so you can have a palate cleanser, so that you can come back to this list with fresh eyes. You need options.
Yeah, I think I need to just have a refresh and try something new. And I think I saw an interesting way of using the list instead of Royal Guard having riders, because you could get more numbers in, which would be something to try. But I guess I need to do this trying in practice games and not just using the tournaments to test these things out for my own sanity. But yeah, I think that new list needs to come quick.
Well, moving on from Ash's third game of Tale of Woe, we will move on to round 4, which was to the death. And this one is where you start within 12 inches of your board edge, and there are victory points for causing a wound on the enemy leader, 3 if you kill the enemy leader, 3 victory points if the enemy force is broken at the end of the game, 5 victory points if they're broken and you're unbroken, 1 victory point if you have at least 1 banner, 2 if you have a banner and they have none, and 2 victory points if the enemy force is reduced to 25% of its starting models. And I'm almost certain this, because I remember him mentioning it, that this is the one where the chap's name is wrong. So it says Adam, so we're just going to call him Adam. I'm sorry, I did write down your real name somewhere, but it's been lost. I'm not sure what was going on with all the name jumbling. So I think a few people did incorrect entries or something like that. All the lists were correct, but yeah, I'm not sure what was going on with that. But the important part is that he was playing Dark Denizens of Mirkwood, and this was a all spider list, and we're cool, not Adam. He was on 3 wins, so this was a really important game for him. If he won this game, he could potentially win the tournament. And yeah, it was all built around the Spider Queen and tons of spiders. And although this isn't really an optimum build, it obviously done quite well, because he was it was a 40 deep field, and he was on 3 victories. So clearly somebody that knew what he was doing. But yeah, this was very much a bad matchup for him, because I didn't have many bows. I only had, I think, 3 in this build, but I had bows, and he had like the paralyzation thing, but I'm fighting in ranks. It's quite easy to revive people when you can roll that many dice. So effectively, I can shoot him. He can't really shoot me. And worst of all, I've got a banner. And, you know, I didn't know what I was playing for at this point. I hadn't really kept an eye on what other people were doing, but I knew I had the potential to go top 10, and I wanted to go top 10 out in a 40-player tournament. That would be good. So I was not going to take any risks, and you know, he could tell from my positioning straight away. I was not going to sacrifice the fact that I had a banner and he did not. I'll take that 2-0 victory and that minor win if that's all that I'm going to get, but I'm not risking losing just to wind up with a minor victory or whatever. So he had to come to me, and he wisely kept the Spider Queen back because she is very vulnerable to magic. I had dual casters. He knew pretty rapidly, you know, I could either reduce his courage really low so he can't charge my black nums or my leader. I could black dart. I could just black dart, and you know, she becomes pretty vulnerable pretty quick. So for most of the game, he kept her back, and yeah, not Adam tried his best. Like, you know, he sent spiders around the side, and I did a little move where I compelled one of them forward. I sent Suladan and 2 of his riders into it, and then pinged off into the other ones, wiped 4 of them out. I took 1 out from shooting on the other side. He sent them through. I was immobilizing, I was compelling, and then mobbing them. So both of those sort of flanking maneuvers failed. And you know, at this point, I think he sort of saw I've just got to go for it, and he went for it, and it pretty much went down how he thought it was. Because what I was doing up until that point was, you know, if he hadn't come to me, I was just going to move forward, compel into me, mob him, compel into me, mob him. I did that like 3 times. So I was going to keep doing that really, and I was going to get the victory points one way or another. So better to fight me when he still had numbers. And yeah, we got to a point where basically, because I was starting to run out of will, and I knew he was going to break, so I wanted to make sure they just disappeared. I had got the Spider Queen down to 2 courage with reducing her courage, and that paid off because he had to use all of her will and all of her might to stop her failing a courage test and fleeing. And yeah, there was basically on a turn where he had a handful of spiders left. I had immobilized the Spider Queen, and I was everywhere, and he just said, shall we call it there? Because I you know, all that was going to happen was I was going to keep doing it and table him. So I was like, yeah, it's been a long day, you don't need to play that out. So yeah, it was a bad matchup for him. I think I did play well, and I played it optimum, to my credit, but it was a bad matchup for him. He was very sporting, great guy to play, interesting army, and you know, definitely the sort of army that you maybe wouldn't see doing well at a GBHL 100. So it's nice to see someone bringing out something completely different and doing. You know, he's still got 3 wins. That is a pretty good for an all spider themed list, and I liked it. And you know, thank you for the game. I'm sorry that right at the end, what was a very good day, because you've got three wins, that you came up against what was a very harsh matchup for you. But yeah, it was a good sporting game. I was so lucky at this tournament, Ash. I can't tell you, like, all 4 people I played, just, you know, the spirit of goodwill that we talk about, and, you know, playing for intent. I love that when somebody says, this is what I'm intending to do here. It makes a game so much easier to play.
Yeah, I think I was lucky in that sense as well. That everyone I played, it was a good vibe and enjoyable. No one was really too serious about the rules as well. If a mistake was made, I did find that people were willing to just say, "Oh, well, do you want to do it?" or "Oh, I forgot to do this. Do you mind if I do it?" And when that sort of thing happens, and it's very like 2-sided, it's always nice to play those games.
Yeah,
when it's not too serious. I think as well, I like how Tom does it in terms of it's cheap and there's no prizes given out really, so you're not really fighting for a prize other than those GBHL points, so people maybe are a bit more relaxed.
Yeah, Yeah. We'll talk about
We'll cover that later.
Quickly in the summary. We're not going to do a full review for this one because I think Tom's had enough reviews out of us, and at this point it just feels gratuitous. But yeah, that was another major victory for me. So that left me wondering where I would wind up in the standings. I was aware at this point I had one minor loss and 3 major victories. So I was hoping that the result would be like fairly decent. So let's move on to your final game, Ash. Did it get any better for you?
No. I had Mordor again, with a guy called Ben, and I've actually played Ben the last time he was at Board In Brum. He was the guy who had a full warg army, just full of wargs. This time he decided to bring his Mordor army, which was basically like all the others: Gorbag, Goroth, and had an orc shaman in there, sorry, and Musga. So it was a little bit different to what I'm used to with those 2 characters in there. But Gorbag and Goroth played quite a few times. He didn't have any Numenorians, which is interesting. But he had a lot of Morannons, which they seem to be my nemesis. Morannons do.
Well, they certainly make it.
They
certainly make it a lot easier to kill Royal Guard as well.
Yeah, they're quite tough to kill, and yeah, they're a lot easier to kill my guys. Obviously, I have the higher fight skill on the charge, but if I'm not charging, then it makes it easier to kill the Royal Guard. And in the scenario we're playing, it's quite tough because you have to get in there and you have to go in and try and kill things. So you can't just sit around and wait for them to come to you. With my list, I sort of had to be really aggressive and get in there and try and kill his leader. So yeah, I just charged in and went hellbent for leather because it was the last game and I thought, why not? And the result for this one was pretty much of the same. It was a 9-3 victory because I managed to kill his leader, but he didn't manage to kill Theoden. But in this game, Aomer decided to run away because he was outside of Theoden's standfast and he failed his courage test, and he was out of will.
You can't use another hero standfast unless it explicitly says.
That was the point. Yeah. You can't use another hero standfast. He was out of will, because he just used his magic on Aomer, trying to stop him from doing things like you did when I played you that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, he used all his will up and just ran off. Which is really super annoying that he doesn't have bodyguard. Because he's got that special rule that if either Dernhelm or Theoden die, then he just turns into a bit of a nutcase. Whereas if they're alive, he's a bit he can run off.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Yeah.
That sort of. I would think I was 5 models from breaking him. So if Aomer had stuck around, then maybe he could have killed those. I could have killed those extra 5, and maybe would have had a minor loss instead of a major loss and got that 1 point. So that would have sent me up the rankings a bit more.
What did the score wind up being then?
It was 9-3.
Okay. Yeah, there's not. I think you need to be within less than 5, isn't it? So it's not a million miles off.
No, it wasn't too far off, and if I could just got that break point, it would have leveled it off a bit. But yeah, super enjoyable game for the last game. It's just numbers. It just didn't have the numbers. Very easy to break, and once you're broken, it's and if you get taken off your horses at all, then it takes away all of the strength of the list. And you've not really got many strengths after that because you lose your fight skill bonuses, you lose your strength bonuses, you lose your cavalry bonus, and you've just got a very expensive model on foot. Yeah. He also managed to take out my banner, which in hindsight I should have protected more. But yeah, it was just end of the day. It was fun game, and it was a very active combat game, which is always fun. There's a lot of dice rolling and stuff happening when you have an active combat game. So it was good fun. But yeah, I think ironically to the death and Fearden being able to call death, they don't really go hand in hand at this points level.
Okay then, yeah, it was an unfortunate day out for you, Ash, but I think we're focused on the lessons learned and the next one that's going up. It is unfortunate that when you don't have the best day, I do seem to have my best day. So let's move on to the results. And this is going to seem like an awfully cruel segment of the podcast because unfortunately it is a little bit one-sided, I'm not going to lie. And yeah, Ash, bless you, you were excited for me and we were looking at the rankings because it was becoming more and more evident as the totals came in that I had done rather well, and I knew it looked like Joe was going to win his game, so it was pretty obvious he was going to win the tournament, being unbeaten. But there was a number of people on 3 and 1, and I had at this point, and did all the way to the end, have the highest margin of victory out of anyone in the tournament, 26, with Joe being second with 25. So that tiebreaker was mine, really. No one was really going to match that. And yeah, it came in, and I will break the suspense. I had equal tournament points with one other person, and we were both on the podium. And I had just snuck it. Because of that margin of victory. We were tied on 19 tournament points with a chap called Patrick. And he actually went unbeaten for the day. He was on 3 wins and a draw. But one of his wins was a minor victory and then obviously the draw. And it turns out that a major victory and a minor loss are the same tournament points as a minor victory and a draw. So, you know, I could definitely see there being some sort of debate of, do I prefer this or do I not prefer that? At a different tournament, because he went unbeaten, he would have come second and I would have come third. Nothing else could possibly have changed because of the results. I would have still come third, but at a different tournament. But, you know, you can only play the rule set that is set out of the tournament you're at. I do actually think the minor major, placing aside my bias to one side, I do think that is a really good thing. And especially when there's only 4 games and you need to separate people out, I think that's really good. And I feel with having 6 points higher on the margin of victory, that sort of is an extra validation. But yeah, absolutely over the moon. Ash, why don't you sing my praises for a few minutes? I'll sit here and listen.
I think I sang them enough. It's funny because I was one place off getting the wooden spoon.
You are.
Yeah. Last time you came second, I got the wooden spoon.
Yes, you did.
We got a similar prize, other than you got a nice glass and I got a spoon, but we got a similar voucher. Whereas in this one, the person who came last actually got a voucher and you didn't get anything, so I probably should have lost more. I got that wooden spoon.
I was very happy with that medal, though. I've worn it on the drive home. I've worn it a lot at home. I've been told to shut up and put it away in the cabinet at this point. But no, I was really, really happy with that result. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear what people think on the minor victory.
One comment I've got on it is, I think that they should do, for a minor loss you get -1, and for a major loss you get minus something else, because that way it's sort of, you lose, so you're actually losing a point. And I could imagine Patrick is feeling a bit cheated from this, because he's if you were playing a game of football or something and you had 3 wins and 1 draw, you would be above someone who had 3 wins and a loss. So maybe the losses need to have maybe a minus there, and not maybe you don't get a point for losing.
Yeah, but if you Yeah, there's some minor. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could say that with anything if you change the scoring. I mean, if anybody probably feels aggrieved, I can see here Alex Richardson came 7. He had 3 wins and a draw. So in any other tournament, he's 3rd. But
because everyone above him as well had 3 wins and a loss.
Yeah,
so obviously his wins didn't account to enough.
He probably got a load of minors. But I mean, obviously anybody could say, "Oh, Sonny, you're biased. You got second," but I do think this is especially for 4-day tournaments. 4-game tournaments. I think this is really good. And Tom was telling me that this is a new feature on Longshanks, which is why he was trying it out. And I do think, maybe people weren't as, I'm sure it was in the tournament pack, but maybe people weren't as aware this was what it was. But you should always, because there's margin of victory, be pushing for your maximum point scoring anyway. So I don't see how it changes too much. But yeah, maybe in future people will become more aware of this and be like, God, I need to make sure that I'm within 5 for a loss or above 5 for the major. But yeah, just going back on me having done well for a second, I think this isn't a GBHL 90 win and or a podium, and it certainly isn't a GBHL 100. But I do think maybe at this point, I'm going to have to accept I ain't the greatest player around, but I'm doing all right,
Yeah, you're doing good. I think. Was your last one win a 90 or an 80?
No, it was also an 80, but I mean that one they
maybe
had.
You stick to 80s.
Well, that one they had 28 people. The part of the reason I felt so good about this was because there were 40 players. I mean that's quite a deep field, and when you look at the lists, top 8, there's 2 Azog Hunters. Patrick, who came 3rd, he was playing Helm's Guard. 4th place was Goblin Town. These aren't rubbish lists.
No, yeah, I was just going to say that there's not your usual 80 theme lists there. People have come and brought some good lists. It's not there. You haven't, obviously, I brought a theme list and that's how I did so bad. But there isn't the theme list that you would maybe normally see at an 80 because it's seen as more of a fun game. Whereas there is some competitive lists on there, and I think. Looking at it as well, you had the most victory. You had the highest margin of victory. So
yeah,
it's a good result. And I said to you, if I do crap, at least you can do well and keep the podcast in some sort of favourable light.
I'm flying the flag for Mercia. Yeah, and I think at an 80, I'm all statistics. What is it 80%? That phrase, 80% of statistics are made up on the spot. So I'm going to do that. I think 25% of the people that go to a GBHL 80 are looking to do well and bring good lists. And the reason I was quite happy with this is because with 40 people, that's 10 people bringing really competitive lists. So that is a reasonably deep field for a GBHL 80. And obviously, it would be great to win one. And I definitely want to go to a 90 and see if I can podium there. That is the next step. Probably not 100 because we're not massive fans of 2-dayers. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. And for you, surely this is a bit of validation at least, because I do feel bad that our practice games do tend to fall in my favour. And you can see that it's not just consistently bad luck.
Well, I think it is for me.
Well, I think you honestly, mate. I think you've almost got a bit snowblind, and you just need to try a different list. I don't want to dwell too much on your on your result because I know you felt bad, but I mean, this shows people the two sides of the coin, doesn't it? You can feel really good, and although it's a nice day and you've played loads of good people, nobody ultimately doesn't want to walk away with a win, but it can happen. But if you want to change that, it's just a matter of maybe painting a few different models, playing a few practice games. I'm sure you can bounce back from this, Ash, and I think step one for that is to try something fresh.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go out there and buy the meta and just start chasing the meta, I think.
I mean, if you feel better, I mean, there's a chance you'll buy the meta, you go to a few tournaments, and then you'll be like, nah, actually, I'm not a massive fan of the models. I want to try this. If it makes you feel better, then I would say do it. Because as long as you're not doing something like Black Riders at an 80, or a really oppressive Angmar list at an 80, I don't think anybody's really going to have any complaints unless you go hyper meta. And even then, people are polite, so they probably will just slag you off behind your back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've realised I don't need to make friends, I need to make wins.
I mean, there's you can look at, like, you know, Azog Hunters, everybody's talking well of Joe, even though he's taken a meta list. I mean, Azog's Hunters, I think, is a bit cliche at this point, but it is what it is. People know it's good at these lower points levels. But yeah, that is the wrap up of the tournament. Unfortunately, a tale of two extremes. But yeah, it is quite nice for me to start the. Yeah, I can't lie, it's a nice way for me to start the season off. But we're just paint some more models, Ash, and we can change this. I know we can.
Paint and buy, I think. I need to pull my money out.
So
blow the cobwebs off the wallet.
Yeah, talking of the future, let me just. I'm just bringing up the list of what we've got ahead. Let's go to events. So yeah, let's focus on the future because it's not going to be like this forever. So what we have coming up, to sort of give you a bit of a feature of our scheduled programming to come, is I am going to be attending a GBHL 90 event at Black Dragon Miniatures, Journey Across Rohan. That's a 500 point event on the 27th of April. So GBHL 90, you will note there. So let's see how I can do a more framed competitive event. I'm going to be taking a very similar list to as what I have brought here. Sorry, I'm just trying to bring up the rest. Then in May, I forget the date. Do you have the date in May, Ash? I think it is the
22nd, I believe.
No, that's definitely not right in May because that's during the week. I think it's the 25th. 25th and 26th. Me and Ash, and I am really excited about this. Not a GBHL event, but we are going to to Warhammer World Doubles. We are making a return where me and Chris originally went. Historic member of Middle Earth in Mercia. Still a friend. We play when we can, but obviously he doesn't feature much these days on the podcast. But I'm really excited for me and Ash to go there. Ash, what do you think? I've obviously told you all about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Obviously, I haven't been to Warhammer World since I was probably 10, 12 years old. So looking forward to the whole thing, really, and going back to Mecca.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. It's going to be great, and
it'll be good to play alongside you instead of against you, and maybe pick up some tips. And I think we've got a good list planned. Obviously, we're not going to tell people because then they'll get our tactics.
No, we're telling people. We said we were going to reveal. We are going to. You can keep talking, but we are going to take Ugluk Scouts. So carry on, Ash.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun list to play. Especially given your experience last time and the rules that you've explained to me. I think that extra movement without needing cavalry.
Yeah. With the drum, and we won't go into the minutiae of the tactics, but basically, for the tournament, you only get 50% of your tournament points for your victories and losses. You get 25% for best army, and you get 25% for sporting votes. There are obviously a number of votes for each of them. I think, so 50% of the people you've played will receive votes. But yeah, the way we figured it is, look, this is a list that I think will work well at doubles. It gives us a reasonable chance to do well while not being an oppressive list that people are not going to enjoy playing against. And also, I think I speak for both of us, Ash, that we both think it's a cool list that would be fun to play.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
and I think I'm looking forward to painting it.
Yeah,
well.
we're going to try. We'll give a bit of an update on how we get on with that, because we're going to try and really speed paint it. So that's Warhammer World Doubles. More to come on that. We'll have a big chat about that in future, and then we have Ash. Are you coming to the June one, the 200-pointer?
Yeah, 200 point in June.
Yeah, so I forget the date and the location, but it's somewhere near Oxford. I can't.
About a 2 hour drive.
I can't bring up the details, but it's GBHL 80 events, so back down to being like a slightly less competitive event. But it's something like 6 or 7 games at 200 points. So that's going to be like playing a different game. When I've played smaller points before, they are very swingy. So that would be cool, wouldn't it, Ash?
Yeah, I think so. And the smaller table aspect, it's going to be a fun game. And obviously, there's a model limit. You can't take any less than 5 models, and any more than, was it 23 or 30?
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be an interesting list to build. I know we've got some ideas on. I think you're planning.
I change all the time what I'm going to take, but I'm definitely taking something different. I'm not taking Hunter Orcs or something like that. I keep thinking about Dwarves. I keep thinking about a Mordor Horde. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I'm possibly thinking maybe Army of the Dead or something like that.
Yeah, it's really cool way to change up the meta. No Legendary Legions as well. So like you've really got to take something different, and yeah, playing 7 quick fire games, that's going to be cool as well.
Yeah, it's going to be intense.
So then I don't believe, Ash, you can join me for this one, but I will be attending, assuming I get a ticket, or I have to get one, I think at time recording, it goes up on Friday, to the King, which is on the 13th of July, which is a 400-pointer GBHL 80 event hosted by James Patterson. So looking forward to that as well. You can't make it to that one, Ash, can you?
No, yeah, I've got family commitments, so I can't make that one, unfortunately, because James always does. I haven't been to a James tournament, actually.
Yeah, so. I haven't, because I had to cancel. And then finally, last in the booking, it is back to Black Dragon Games, another 500-pointer on the 31st of August for a GBHL 90. And you can make that one, Ash, can't you?
Yeah, I can make that one.
Yeah, that my birthday week. My birthday weekend, so hopefully we'll find time for like a decompress and a few beers. Maybe we'll go for a meal or something with the ladies.
Yeah.
That'd be a good way to finish that day off. So yeah, that is in terms of the podcast. We've got a tournament in April, May, June, July, and August. I've lost count because it's quite late while we're recording it. Well, what's that? That's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tournaments, and with last month 6 on the trot for the podcast. So yeah, a full field.
Full schedule. Yeah. I think there was mention of Tom doing one, maybe in June.
Yeah.
So might be another one.
I have to see whether I can do that, because my agreement is one a month, because obviously I put a lot of time into the podcast and painting and stuff. We all have to make our deals, don't we?
I can go on behalf of the podcast.
Yeah, you can go then. But yeah, that's sort of the content you can expect from us. We're going to be doing pieces here and there, but that's certainly 6 podcasts lined up and hobby updates. And I think, Ash, we will have to come up with some sort of mobile recording station, because it'd be really good to really make the Warhammer World one like a proper feature.
Yeah, I think so. A nice feature podcast for the YouTube as well. Take the camera.
I mean, if you haven't been before, I was telling Ash as part of the pitch to get him to come, because this is probably going to be our only 2-dayer that we do. We're going to be staying over at Warhammer World. It's not just a tournament, it's an experience. And particularly if you were a fan of Warhammer, Lord of the Rings, when you were a kid, like whether it's 40k or whatever, for me, like where I lived, I rarely ever got to go to Games Workshop because we didn't have one that was near, and it always felt like a bit of a buzz. And it really does take you back to being like a big kid when I went. And I don't think you've ever been to Warhammer World, have you, Ash?
Yeah, I went once.
Oh, okay.
Probably when I was 11, 12 years old. So,
well, there you go.
A long time ago.
Going to be drinking nostalgia, mate.
Before I found drinks.
Well, the great thing is that it's the only tournament I've been to where there is an open bar operating all the time. And on Saturday, we do not have to drive.
No, so yeah, we can drown our sorrows.
a pint a game, mate. 3 in the evening. But yeah, there it is. That's our adventures planned out for the year. Please do let us know on all of the avenues I've given you earlier if you're going to be attending any of them. We've got some vinyl stickers, we've got some cards, and I'm probably going to be ordering some more dice. If you are a friend of the podcast, if you are a supporter of the podcast, please make yourself known and we'll be more than happy to reward you with some of those goodies.
Yeah, and make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify.
Yeah, that is the easiest, best thing you can do to help us out, because it increases our engagement and we enjoy having you guys as part of the conversation. And the more of you there are, the more people that are involved, and the better the dialogue, really. But yeah, one thing I've just remembered we haven't done. I'm thinking for Tom's tournament, Ash. Yeah, we won't do a full review because it's just getting gratuitous because we keep going to his tournaments. But this was a budget one. It was a £15 entry, no prizes for first, second, and third, but you did get a medal. He bothered to do the stuff with lunch. I know he's probably not going to repeat it. Great venue. Temperature was acceptable to me. I know I've complained about that in the past. I think to get higher than this score, you have to be doing something exceptional, whereas this is just one that I'd be more than happy to go to 3 or 4 times a year. Good standard outing. I'm thinking 8.5. What do you feel about that, Ash?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I think the venue, Board In Brum, is the best venue I've been to a tournament at. Got a really good setup. The terrain obviously is really good. You're always playing on a proper board with proper terrain. The tables are quite high up, and there's a lot of space and stuff next to the table to put your cases, to put your dice trays, etc. So yeah, really, really good venue. And Tom always does a good tournament.
I will probably so that our next proper big episode is probably going to be after Journey Across Rohan at Black Dragon Miniatures. So I'm going to talk about it, that venue, more when I attend there. Me and Ash will try and see if we can get something smaller out, maybe something specifically video orientated before then. But I do want to quickly give a shout out to Black Dragon Miniatures, because I went down there and played on their Wednesday Middle Earth night. So this is in no, it's not Middle Earth specifically, but it's their gaming night, and it's when the Middle Earth guys tend to go. Yeah, I attended their game night, and yeah, I just wanted to say special thanks to Ash and Henry for both giving me a game, and Scott as well. All 3 of them made me really welcome. Highly recommend getting over to Hinckley on a Wednesday night to Black Dragon Miniatures. They've got a Facebook page and you can arrange a game there. But I will talk about the venue and what goes on over there more after the tournament, because that's sort of appropriate. But that's something I'm going to be looking to get out to more often, because it was nice to play some non-tournament games, and I think Ash, you might try and show your face now and then as well.
Yeah, it's a bit further for me, but yeah, I'm going to give it a go and try and go and see if there's anything close by me to go and attend and play some people.
So that's everything from me, Ash. Any final comments, anything you want to follow up before we wrap this up?
No, I think, like we said, great. Board In Brum's a good venue if you want to if you live in the area to get there. And obviously, we've got more things in the pipeline that we're planning that will hopefully bring people within the Mercia area together for more fun games.
Yeah, we've got a few ideas, haven't we? Because it's a great community in this area, and there's some really good people.
Yeah.
But yeah, as we always say at the end of the podcast, I hope you find some time for some hobby. Get out there, roll those dice, and we both hope to see you at a table across from us soon.
Catch you later.
All right. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.